What you do in the first hour of your morning quietly decides the direction of your entire life. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will truly change the way you see your mornings and your future. There is a quiet kind of power in the moment you wake up before the world asks anything from you, a sacred space that most people rush past without even realizing its value. And I want you to imagine this with me for a second. The alarm rings, the sky is still soft, the air feels untouched, and for a few brief moments, life hasn't started demanding, comparing, judging, or pulling you in 100 different directions. And in that space lies one of the most life-changing truths I've learned. If you don't claim your morning, the world will claim your mind, your energy, and eventually your direction. I remember phases of my own life when my days began in reacting to messages, reacting to schedules, reacting to expectations. And by the time I even became aware of my own thoughts, my emotional energy already belonged to someone else. And maybe you know this feeling too. When your eyes open and within seconds you are already behind, already stressed, already carrying the invisible weight of a day that hasn't even begun yet. That is not living consciously. That is living in surrender to external noise. Waking up earlier, even by 20 or 30 minutes, is not about discipline in the harsh sense. It's about self-respect. It's about giving yourself the dignity of meeting your own life before the world interrupts it. Think of your mind like a quiet lake at dawn. When you wake slowly and intentionally, the water is still, clear, reflective. But when you jump straight into urgency, notifications, and pressure, it's like throwing stones into that lake before you've even looked at your reflection. And then you spend the rest of the day wondering why everything feels scattered and unclear. The truth is, the first hour of your morning doesn't just shape your schedule, it shapes your identity. Because every morning you are either reinforcing the belief that you are in control of your life, or you are reinforcing the habit of reacting to everything outside you. And here's something I want you to really sit with. Successful, grounded, emotionally strong people don't have easier lives. They simply start their days with ownership instead of urgency. Ownership sounds simple, but it changes everything. It means you decide your emotional state before the world tries to decide it for you. It means you breathe before you rush. You think before you react. You center yourself before you perform. And that small decision repeated every day slowly rewires your confidence, your clarity, and your resilience. I've seen this again and again, the difference between people who feel constantly overwhelmed and those who move through life with calm strength is not talent, not luck, not opportunity. It's the invisible habit of beginning their day with themselves instead of their obligations. When you wake early and sit with your thoughts, even for a few minutes, something powerful happens. Your inner voice becomes louder than the outside noise, and over time, that voice becomes your guide instead of your doubts. Imagine a musician tuning their instrument before a performance. The audience never sees that quiet preparation, but without it, the entire performance falls apart. And your morning is exactly that tuning process for your mind and your spirit. Without it, you spend the day slightly out of rhythm, slightly tense, slightly disconnected, and you may not even know why everything feels harder than it should. But when you begin your day intentionally, something shifts. Your decisions become clearer. Your reactions become calmer. Your presence becomes stronger. And most importantly, you start to feel like the author of your life instead of a character being pushed through it. And I know what some of you might be thinking right now. Life is busy. Responsibilities are real. Sleep feels precious. Mornings feel impossible. And I understand that completely, because change doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with a decision to try, even if it's just 10 minutes earlier tomorrow. even if it's just sitting quietly before the day starts, even if it's simply choosing not to rush immediately into stress. Transformation doesn't happen through dramatic changes. It happens through quiet choices that you repeat until they become your nature. There is also a deeper spiritual truth hidden here. When you wake early and give yourself space, you reconnect with the part of you that is not rushed, not anxious, not defined by roles or expectations. The part of you that simply exists, aware and present, and that connection becomes your anchor throughout the day. Without that anchor, every challenge feels heavier, every criticism feels louder, every setback feels more personal. But with it, you move differently. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become steadier. And steadiness, more than motivation, is what builds extraordinary lives. Think of your morning like planting a seed. Whatever you plant first grows throughout your day. If you plant hurry, you harvest stress. If you plant distraction, you harvest confusion. But if you plant awareness, intention, and calm, you harvest clarity, confidence, and strength. And here is something most people don't realize. The power of waking early is not in what you do during that time. It's in what you are telling yourself. You are telling yourself that your life matters enough to begin it consciously. That your mind deserves preparation. That your peace is worth protecting. And that message, repeated daily, slowly transforms how you see yourself. Over time, you stop feeling like someone who is trying to manage life, and you start feeling like someone who is creating it. If this idea is already stirring something inside you, stay with me, because the lessons ahead go even deeper into how to protect your energy, strengthen your mindset, and align your life with purpose. And I promise you, the final points are where real transformation begins. The kind that most people never experience simply because they don't stay long enough to hear what truly matters. But before we move forward, I want you to carry this one truth with you. Every morning is a quiet invitation from life asking, will you begin today consciously, or will you give your power away? And the answer you give day after day is what slowly shapes your confidence, your direction, and ultimately your destiny. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings, don't think of it as something pulling you out of rest. Think of it as an opportunity to meet your life before the noise begins, to sit with your breath, your thoughts, your intentions, and to remind yourself, even if only for a moment, that you are not here just to react to the world. You are here to rise into it with awareness, strength, and ownership. And if you stay with me through the lessons ahead, you'll discover how this single habit becomes the first step in building a life that feels not rushed, not scattered, but deeply intentional, powerful, and truly your own. There is a moment in every morning that most people don't even notice, yet it quietly determines the emotional tone of their entire day. The moment your hand reaches for your phone before your mind has even fully awakened, and what feels like a harmless habit is actually one of the most powerful ways you give your peace away without realizing it. Think about it honestly. Before you've taken a full breath, before you've even checked in with your own thoughts, you are suddenly flooded with messages, headlines, opinions, comparisons, expectations, and other people's urgency. And in seconds, your inner world, which began the day calm and neutral, becomes crowded, reactive, and tense. I have experienced this myself during demanding phases of my career, when mornings began with emails, updates, and notifications, and even before I stood up, my heart rate had already changed, my focus had already scattered, and my energy no longer belonged to me. It belonged to the world. And that's the truth most people overlook. The first voice you listen to each morning should be your own. Because if you allow external noise to enter before your inner voice has spoken, You spend the rest of the day trying to recover a clarity you never protected. Your mind in the morning is like a clean white canvas, untouched and full of possibility. But when you begin the day with screens, it's as if dozens of people rush in and start painting their worries, their achievements, their opinions, their fears, and their expectations across it. And then you wonder why your own direction feels blurred. Silence, on the other hand, is not emptiness. It is alignment. It is the space where your thoughts organize themselves, where your emotions settle, where your awareness returns to you instead of being pulled outward. Imagine a musician stepping onto a stage without tuning their instrument, or an athlete running a race without warming up. That's what it feels like to begin your day without a moment of stillness. You may move forward, but you're not centered, and that lack of alignment shows up as impatience, distraction, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion throughout the day. Even 5 minutes of silence in the morning can change your mental chemistry, because when you sit quietly, close your eyes, and take slow breaths, you send a signal to your nervous system that you are safe, present, and in control, and from that state, your decisions become clearer, your reactions become calmer, and your energy becomes intentional instead of scattered. I want you to try something simple. Tomorrow morning, before touching your phone, sit up, place your feet on the ground and take 5 deep breaths, slowly and consciously, and then ask yourself one question. Not what do I have to do today, but how do I want to feel today? Because your life is not shaped by your to-do list, it is shaped by your emotional state. When you choose calm, you move differently. When you choose focus, you think differently. When you choose gratitude or confidence or patience, your entire day begins to align with that emotional intention. Most people think productivity creates a good day, but the truth is, emotional clarity creates productive action. Without it, you spend the day busy but disconnected, active but drained. And here is something deeply spiritual about morning silence that many people underestimate. It reconnects you with the part of yourself that exists beyond roles, beyond performance, beyond comparison. The part of you that simply observes, breathes, and exists without pressure. In that quiet space, you remember that you are more than your deadlines, more than your responsibilities, more than the expectations placed on you. You remember that you are human before you are busy. That awareness may seem small, but it becomes your emotional anchor for the rest of the day. When challenges come, and they always do, you don't react immediately because you've already met your center. When criticism appears, it doesn't shake you as deeply because your self-worth was not built on external input that morning. When stress rises, you return to your breath because your day began with awareness instead of urgency. Silence in the morning is like setting the emotional temperature of your day. If you begin in chaos, everything feels heated and rushed. But if you begin in stillness, you carry that calm strength into every interaction, every decision, every challenge. And let's be honest for a moment. The reason this habit is so powerful is because it's difficult. The world is designed to pull your attention outward. Notifications are built to feel urgent. Social media is designed to trigger comparison. News is designed to capture emotion. But when you resist that pull, even for a few minutes, you are doing something rare and powerful. You are choosing awareness over reaction. And awareness is the foundation of every meaningful change in life. Without awareness, you repeat patterns. With awareness, you begin to redesign your responses, your habits, and eventually your identity. Over time, This simple act of protecting your morning silence creates a quiet confidence inside you, the kind that doesn't come from achievements or validation, but from the feeling that you are emotionally grounded before the world even begins its demands. And here's something important to understand. This isn't about rejecting technology or isolating yourself from the world. It's about sequencing your energy. First you meet yourself, then you meet the world. First you center your thoughts, then you receive information. First you choose your emotional state, then you respond to external situations. That order changes everything. People who master this don't necessarily have easier lives, but they experience life differently, less reactive, less overwhelmed, more intentional, more present. And if you're thinking this sounds too simple to make a real difference, remember this: your life is not shaped by dramatic moments. It's shaped by repeated emotional patterns. And the emotional pattern you create in the first 10 minutes of your day echoes through the next 16 hours. If those minutes begin with anxiety, comparison, or urgency, that energy multiplies. But if they begin with breath, stillness, and intention, that calm multiplies too. If this idea is already making you reflect on your own mornings, stay with me, because the lessons ahead go even deeper into how to strengthen your mindset, protect your energy, and align your actions with purpose. And I want to be honest with you, the final points are where most people experience the biggest shift, and you'll regret missing them, because that's where small habits turn into life-changing awareness. But before we move forward, hold on to this truth: silence is not a luxury, it is a necessity for a focused and emotionally strong life. In a noisy world, the people who create extraordinary clarity are not the ones who consume more information. They are the ones who create more inner space. So tomorrow morning, before the world speaks to you, before the messages, before the headlines, before the endless scroll, give yourself a few quiet minutes, breathe slowly, feel your presence, choose your emotional intention, and remind yourself that your peace is not something you find during the day. It is something you protect at the beginning of it. And if you continue this journey through the lessons ahead, you'll discover how this simple moment of silence becomes the foundation of a life that feels not rushed, not reactive, but deeply aligned, powerful, and truly under your control. There is something most people don't realize about the mind in the early hours of the morning. It is incredibly impressionable, almost like soft clay waiting to be shaped, or fertile soil ready to receive whatever seeds you plant first. And the truth is, whatever you feed your mind in those first moments quietly grows throughout your entire day. Think about how often mornings begin with noise, random scrolling, negative news, comparison, arguments online, other people's opinions, fears, complaints, or chaos. And without even noticing it, you are planting seeds of anxiety, distraction, self-doubt, or urgency before your own thoughts have had a chance to form. By midday, you feel mentally scattered, emotionally drained, or strangely unmotivated, and you wonder why your focus feels weak or your confidence feels low. But the answer is simple. Your mind has been consuming mental junk before it ever received mental nourishment. I learned this lesson during some of the most demanding phases of my life, when the pressure was constant and the expectations were high, and I began to notice a pattern. On days when my mornings began with intention, learning, or inspiration, I moved through challenges with clarity and strength. But on days when my mornings began with random consumption, comparison, or distraction, even small problems felt heavier, and my emotional resilience felt weaker. That's when I truly understood that confidence isn't something you suddenly feel when life goes well. It's something you build quietly, thought by thought, morning by morning. Your mind is like a garden, and if you don't consciously plant something positive, something negative will grow there by default, because the world is always ready to fill your attention with fear, urgency, or comparison. Feeding your mind in the morning doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. It could be reading a single page of something meaningful, listening to a short message that inspires growth, writing down one intention, or even reflecting on a powerful idea that reminds you who you want to become. What matters is not the amount of information, but the quality of the emotional direction you give your mind. When you begin your day with something that expands your thinking, something that reminds you of possibility instead of limitation, your mental state shifts from reactive to intentional. And that shift changes how you interpret everything that happens afterward. Suddenly, challenges feel like opportunities instead of obstacles. Criticism feels like feedback instead of rejection. Delays feel like timing instead of failure. That's the quiet power of mental nourishment. It doesn't change your circumstances immediately, but it changes your perspective. And perspective is what determines your emotional experience of life. Imagine two people facing the same difficult day. One begins the morning scrolling through comparison and negativity. The other begins the morning reading something that reminds them of resilience, growth, and purpose. By the afternoon, their external situations may look similar, but their internal worlds will be completely different. One will feel overwhelmed, defensive, and drained. The other will feel focused, patient, and steady. The difference isn't luck. The difference is what they planted in their minds when the day began. There is also a deeper spiritual layer to this practice that many people overlook. When you intentionally feed your mind something uplifting or meaningful in the morning, you are reminding yourself that you are not here just to react to life. You are here to grow out through it. You are strengthening your awareness, your perspective, and your emotional maturity before the world tests it. In many ways, morning learning or reflection is like putting on emotional armor. Not armor that hardens you, but armor that grounds you, protects your mindset, and keeps you connected to your values when the day becomes unpredictable. And let's be honest, the modern world is not designed to strengthen your mind. It's designed to capture your attention. Algorithms are built to keep you scrolling. Headlines are written to trigger emotion. Social media is structured around comparison. If you don't consciously choose what enters your mind, you are allowing external systems to shape your thoughts, your self-image, and even your emotional state. Feeding your mind intentionally. Each morning is a powerful act of independence. It is you saying, I choose what shapes my thinking. I choose what influences my mood. I choose the direction of my growth. Over time, this habit creates something extraordinary: mental resilience. You stop being easily shaken by negative news or other people's opinions. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel. You stop reacting emotionally to every small disruption. Instead, you carry a quiet sense of direction, because your mind has been trained daily to return to purpose, perspective, and possibility. And here is something important to understand. This is not about consuming motivation endlessly or chasing temporary inspiration. It's about feeding your mind ideas that make you more aware, more grounded, and more aligned with who you want to become. Sometimes that might be a powerful quote. Sometimes it might be a page from a book about growth or spirituality. Sometimes it might be writing down one lesson you learned yesterday and one intention for today. Small inputs, repeated consistently, create deep mental shifts over time. Think of it like nutrition. One healthy meal doesn't transform your body, but consistent nourishment changes your strength, your energy, and your endurance. The same is true for your mind. And here's something most people underestimate. The thoughts you repeat each morning eventually become your internal voice. If your mornings are filled with distraction and comparison, your internal voice becomes critical and restless. But if your mornings are filled with growth, learning, and intention, your internal voice becomes supportive, focused, and calm. And that internal voice is what guides your decisions, your risks, your confidence, and your persistence when things get difficult. If this idea is already making you think differently about your mornings, stay with me. Because the lessons ahead go even deeper into how to build emotional strength, physical energy, and a sense of purpose that most people spend years searching for. And I want to be honest with you, the final points are where everything connects, where small habits turn into powerful life transformation, and you'll regret missing them because that's where the real shift begins. But before we move forward, remember this simple truth. Your mindset in the morning becomes your reality by evening. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your focus, your reactions, your conversations, and your decisions. So tomorrow, before you give your attention to the endless noise of the world, give your mind something that strengthens it, something that expands, something that reminds you of your growth, your purpose, and your potential. Feed your mind before the world feeds it, because when your thoughts begin the day with clarity and intention, you don't just move through your day differently. You begin to move through your life with a deeper sense of direction, confidence, and quiet power. And if you continue this journey through the lessons ahead, you'll discover how this single habit becomes one of the strongest foundations for a life that feels not scattered or reactive, but deeply focused, emotionally resilient, and intentionally aligned with the person you are becoming. There is a powerful truth about energy that most people overlook. Your body is not separate from your mind, and the way you move in the morning quietly determines how you think, feel, and respond for the rest of the day. Many people wake up and move directly from their bed to a chair, from stillness to stillness, from sleep to screens, and then wonder why their thoughts feel heavy, their motivation feels low, and their emotions feel sluggish. But the human system was never designed to begin the day in stagnation. Your body is the engine of your emotional state, and when you activate it, you are not just exercising muscles. You are awakening your confidence, your focus, and your resilience. I've experienced this during some of the most demanding seasons of my life, when long days, constant expectations, and intense pressure could easily drain both mental and emotional strength. And what I noticed was simple but powerful. On the mornings I moved my body, even briefly, I carried a completely different energy into the day. My mind felt clearer, my patience was stronger, my confidence was quieter but more solid. But on mornings when I skipped movement, everything felt slightly heavier. Small problems felt bigger, decisions felt slower, and my emotional tolerance felt lower. That's when I understood something important. Movement is not about fitness goals or physical appearance. It is about emotional momentum. When you move your body, you send a message to your nervous system that you are alive, capable, and ready. Think of your energy like water flowing through a river. When the water moves, it stays fresh and powerful, but when it sits still for too long, it becomes stagnant, heavy, and dull. The same thing happens inside you. Even 10 minutes of stretching, walking, yoga, or simple exercise can shift your internal chemistry, releasing stress hormones, increasing oxygen to your brain, and activating the natural chemicals that support focus, optimism, and calm strength. And here is something deeper than the science. Movement is a form of self-respect. It is you telling your body, I value you, I need you, we are in this life together. Too often, people treat their bodies like machines that should perform without care, pushing through fatigue, ignoring tension, postponing rest or movement until someday later. But your body keeps score. The stiffness in your shoulders, the heaviness in your chest, the constant fatigue. These are not just physical signals, they are emotional messages. When you take time each morning to move, even gently, you release not only physical tension but emotional weight as well. Have you ever noticed how a walk can clear your thoughts? How stretching can calm your breathing? How even a few minutes of movement can shift your mood? That's because your emotions live in your body, not just in your mind. Stress tightens muscles, anxiety shortens breath, fear contracts posture. But movement reverses that pattern. It opens your chest, deepens your breath, straightens your posture, and with that physical shift comes a psychological one. Confidence is not just a thought, it is a physical state. Presence is not just mental, it is embodied. When you move with intention in the morning, you are practicing strength before the world tests it. Imagine an athlete preparing for competition. They don't wait until the game begins to warm up. They prepare their body so that when pressure arrives, their system is ready. Your day works the same way. Challenges will come, stress will come, unexpected situations will come. But when your body has already been activated, your nervous system responds with steadiness instead of shock. You become less reactive, more grounded, more capable of staying calm under pressure. And this is not about intense workouts or extreme routines. The power is in consistency, not intensity. A slow stretch by your bed, a short walk outside, a few minutes of yoga, even dancing to a song you love. What matters is not the method but the message. Today I am choosing energy. Today I am choosing movement. Today I am choosing life. There's also something spiritually powerful about morning movement that many people don't talk about. When you move your body with awareness, feeling your breath, noticing your muscles, being present in the sensation, you reconnect with the experience of being alive. You come out of your head, out of your worries about the past or future, and into the present moment. And presence is where clarity lives. Presence is where peace lives. Presence is where your real strength lives. Most anxiety comes from living mentally in tomorrow. Most regret comes from living mentally in yesterday. But movement anchors you in now. And when your day begins in presence, your decisions become more conscious, your reactions become more thoughtful, and your experience of life becomes richer. Another truth that people often discover after building this habit is that movement creates discipline without force. You don't have to motivate yourself every hour of the day when your morning has already created momentum. It's like pushing a heavy wheel. The first push takes effort, but once it starts moving, it carries its own energy forward. Morning movement is that first push. It tells your brain we take action. We follow through, we show up. And that identity begins to influence other areas of your life. Your work, your habits, your focus, your consistency. You stop negotiating with yourself so much because you've already proven early in the day that you are someone who acts. And if this is starting to resonate with you, stay with me. Because the lessons ahead go even deeper into the emotional and spiritual foundations that turn simple habits into lasting transformation. And I want to be honest with you, the final points are where everything connects, where energy meets purpose, and where most people experience the shift they've been searching for. You don't want to miss those because that's where small morning choices begin shaping your entire life direction. But before we move forward, remember this: your energy does not come from motivation, it comes from movement. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. Action creates readiness, motion creates momentum, and every morning gives you a new opportunity to activate that momentum before the world begins to drain it. So tomorrow, before the emails, before the meetings, before the rush, take a few minutes to move your body with intention. Stretch your arms, roll your shoulders, step outside, walk, breathe deeply, feel your strength, feel your presence, remind your body and your mind that you are not starting the day passively, you are stepping into it with energy, awareness, and readiness. Because when your body moves, your thoughts follow. When your posture opens, your confidence rises. When your breath deepens, your mind clears. And over time, this simple act becomes more than a routine. It becomes a daily declaration that you are alive, capable, and ready to meet your life with strength. And if you continue with the lessons ahead, you'll begin to see how this physical energy connects with emotional balance, gratitude, purpose, and inner power, building a life that doesn't just look productive on the outside, but feels strong, grounded, and deeply alive on the inside. There is a quiet habit that has the power to transform not only your mornings, but the entire emotional direction of your life. And it is something so simple that most people overlook it completely. The choice to begin your day with gratitude before you begin it with ambition. Most people wake up and immediately think about what is missing, what is late, what is difficult, what needs to be fixed, achieved, proven, or completed, and without realizing it, they enter the day from a state of lack, pressure, and urgency. Their mind begins running a silent script: I'm behind, I need more, I'm not there yet. And when your day begins from a feeling of insufficiency, even your achievements feel heavy, even your progress feels incomplete, and no matter how much you accomplish, there is always a quiet tension underneath it all. But when you begin your morning with gratitude, something powerful shifts inside you. Your energy moves from pressure to possibility, from scarcity to strength, from chasing life to appreciating it. I learned this lesson during moments when my life looked successful from the outside, but felt exhausting on the inside. When every goal reached was immediately replaced by a new expectation, when achievement became a treadmill instead of a celebration. And I realized something that changed my perspective forever. Ambition without gratitude creates anxiety. Ambition with gratitude creates fulfillment. Gratitude is not about lowering your standards or settling for less. It is about stabilizing your emotional foundation so that your drive comes from inspiration instead of insecurity. Think of your emotional state like the ground beneath your feet. If the ground is unstable, even small challenges feel overwhelming. But if the ground is solid, you can move faster, take bigger risks, and stay calm even when things don't go as planned. Gratitude creates that emotional stability. When you wake up and take a moment to acknowledge what is already working in your life, your breath, your body, your family, your opportunities, your growth, even your struggles that taught you resilience, you remind your mind that you are not starting from zero, you are starting from strength. And that reminder changes how you approach everything that follows. Instead of thinking, I have to work today, you think, I get to work today. Instead of feeling burdened by responsibilities, you feel trusted with opportunities. Instead of moving through the day with tension, you move with quiet appreciation. And appreciation is powerful because it expands your perception. The human brain naturally focuses on problems. It's designed for survival. But gratitude retrains your attention to notice progress, support, beauty, and possibility. Over time, this practice literally changes how you see your life. The same circumstances feel lighter, the same challenges feel more manageable, the same journey feels more meaningful. Imagine two people with identical lives. Same job, same responsibilities, same pressures, but one begins the day thinking about everything that is missing, while the other begins by recognizing what is already present. By evening, their emotional experiences will be completely different. One will feel drained and dissatisfied. The other will feel tired but fulfilled. The difference is not their situation, the difference is their perspective. And here is something deeply spiritual about gratitude that goes beyond psychology. Gratitude brings you into the present moment. When you appreciate what you already have, your mind stops racing toward the future or replaying the past. You become aware of the life that is actually happening right now. And presence is where peace lives. Presence is where joy lives. Many people postpone happiness, telling themselves they will feel satisfied when they reach the next milestone, the next promotion, the next level of success. But life does not wait for milestones to be meaningful. Life is happening in ordinary mornings, in quiet breaths, in small victories, in the ability to begin again. Gratitude allows you to experience that meaning instead of rushing past it. It also protects you from one of the most dangerous emotional traps of modern life: comparison. When your morning begins with appreciation, you are less affected by what others are doing, achieving, or showing online, because your focus is anchored in your own journey. Gratitude creates emotional independence. You stop measuring your worth against someone else's timeline, and you begin valuing your own progress, your own path, your own growth. And this independence is what allows confidence to grow quietly and naturally. There is also a powerful connection between gratitude and resilience. When difficulties come, and they always do, a grateful mind adapts faster. It looks for lessons instead of losses, opportunities instead of obstacles. It doesn't deny pain or challenge, but it refuses to let negativity become the only story. Gratitude strengthens your emotional immune system. It helps you recover faster from disappointment, rejection, or uncertainty because your mind has been trained to find balance even in difficult moments. And the beauty of this habit is that it doesn't require time, money, or special conditions. It could be as simple as speaking 3 things out loud each morning, writing 1 sentence in a journal, pausing for 10 seconds before getting out of bed and saying thank you for another day, thank you for another chance, thank you for the strength to grow. These small moments repeated daily create a powerful emotional pattern. Over time, gratitude becomes your default response instead of your occasional practice. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw pressure. You begin to feel supported where you once felt alone. You begin to move through life with quiet confidence instead of constant urgency. And here is something important to remember. Gratitude does not slow your ambition. It actually strengthens it. When your energy comes from appreciation instead of fear, you work with more focus, more creativity, and more resilience. You are no longer chasing success to prove your worth. You are building success from a place of self-worth. And that shift changes everything. If this idea is already touching something inside you, stay with me, because the lessons ahead become even more powerful, even more transformative. And I want you to know honestly, the final points are where the deepest shift happens, where your mornings stop being routines and start becoming a foundation for purpose, confidence, and inner peace. You don't want to miss those because that's where everything begins to connect. But before we move forward, carry this truth with you. The energy you start your day with becomes the lens through which you see everything. When you begin with gratitude, your mind searches for what is working instead of what is missing. Your heart opens instead of tightening. Your actions come from strength instead of pressure. So tomorrow morning, before you rush into your goals, your emails, your responsibilities, pause for a moment and acknowledge the life you already have. Feel your breath, notice your strength, recognize your progress, thank the journey, even the difficult parts, for shaping you into who you are becoming. Because real success is not built by people who are constantly dissatisfied with their lives. It is built by people who appreciate their starting point while courageously moving forward. And if you continue with the lessons ahead, you'll begin to understand how this simple practice of gratitude becomes the emotional foundation for a life that is not only successful on the outside, but deeply fulfilling, balanced, and meaningful on the inside.